Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Satti, and joining me is my wonderful co-host who also happens to be my mentor here, Fahim Bangesh. Assalamu alaikum, Fahim. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam, Hajra. I'm very well, thank you, and quite energetic this beautiful morning. I'm usually very energetic when it comes to autumns and winters.
That's very true, because usually that is a transition period, and being in Islamabad, we really enjoy that transition periods, be it autumn or spring, because this is the best weather if you want to observe and live in Islamabad.
Oh,
but
yes.
Fahim, since it's 5th of October and it is World Teachers Day, and the theme of this day is the teacher that we need for education, we want global imperative to reverse teacher shortage. And I'm pretty sure that we were often moved by the teachers who impacted our personality, because teaching does not mean that making your students memorize all of the stuff that is going on into your books. It is also about nurturing the soul of your students, because in Islam, if you see, after the parents, the status of the teacher is very high, because the sort of nurturing and the sort of polishing they do to young minds out there. And I'm pretty sure you might have a lot of teachers who have impacted you as a person, as a student. So would you like eulogizing them or giving them tribute? Because after you, I'll do that.
Yes, definitely. The first one who really impacted my life and taught me something other than the curriculum was back in 6th grade in Saudi Arabia, and I still remember her name, Miss Kelly Weinbold. She told me how to be soft, how to be polite with people, and how to get your message across, and how to communicate back in 6th grade. And that really touched my heart, the way she treated me in a particular set of circumstances. That would be a long story, obviously, I wouldn't share that. But anyway, she taught me that. And then back in my 9th grade, 10th and 11th, my Urdu and English teachers, we would not just study our books, we would discuss things in the class. And that really helped us in critical thinking, in thinking out of the box, in analytical thinking. It was the way of their teaching was way ahead of their times. Miss Nahid and Sir Aurangzeb. I mean, I still salute you guys, and I remember you, and I mention you guys everywhere I go, and I love you guys.
That's very true, and thank you so much for giving this a beautiful eulogy to all those teachers. But I would also like to recount my teachers, and I would like to expedite it to my bachelor's and my master years, because I feel that those were very transformative years for me. And I was taught rather how to think about instead of what to think about. And there were teachers like Mem Javeria, there were teachers like Sir Waqas Naeem and Mem Najma, who taught me how to polish your skills, and especially because I do feel when we are in the, I would say in my schooling, so there was the concept of the rote memorization and rote learning. But when you transition towards your university or in your graduate studies, you learn that how actually you need to think about and the sort of critical thinking that develops in the university. And when I did my MPhil, so there was this one particular teacher, I would really like to name him. He is Professor Dr. Bakar Najmuddin. He was a phenomenal professor. If you're listening, sir, I'm really grateful that I came across you, I interacted with you, because he did not just polish me in my MPhil, in my area of expertise, but spiritually he gave me a lot of things, and he polished me, and he made me a better person, because every time I used to inquire about some of the very tough spiritual questions, he would always come back to me with such a beautiful answers that I have never recounted him. And I would say that he has the ocean of knowledge trapped inside his heart, and it's wonderful and beautiful that how he used to spill out all of that knowledge for me and always recommend me, and he was always there for me whenever I needed him, be it the research, be it my spiritual journey, or as a journey as a student. Happy Teachers Day to all the teachers out there, and the way they are transforming the education. And obviously we need to rethink our approach, how to make the teachers' abilities to reflect more on our society in the first place, because good teachers means a good nation in the making.
Absolutely, because this matters a lot, how you teach the children, how you nurture the children, and not just children, like you said, back in the university days. Well, anyway, we're going to talk more about that, but right now we're going to talk about the main headlines for today and the top stories for today. And let's see what's going on. Well, two Pakistani citizens, including a 12-year-old child, embraced martyrdom, and another child got injured in an unprovoked and indiscriminate firing by an Afghan sentry at Friendship Gate of Chaman border crossing. And of course, according to an ISPR statement, the firing incident took place at the outbound gate located on the Zero line at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, and the sentry opened fire at the pedestrians moving from Pakistan to Afghanistan. The Pakistani troops, they exercised extreme restraint and avoided any exchange of fire in presence of innocent passengers to avoid any collateral damage. This happened yesterday, and as far as the sports news is concerned, well, would you like to highlight that?
Right. So since it's sports season going on, World Cup is on its World Cup fever is on its peak. So ICC Men's Cricket World Cup 2023 kicks off from today in India with the defending champions England taking on New Zealand in Ahmedabad. 13th edition of the Men's ODI World Cup will comprise 45 league matches and 3 knockout matches. The 10 teams, including Afghanistan, Australia, Bangladesh, England, India, Netherlands, New Zealand, Pakistan, South Africa and Sri Lanka will compete against each other in a much-awaited tournament. And for further commentary and for further analysis, you need to tune into the PTV Sports, because my co-anchor and co-host Shahzad is doing a wonderful and brilliant job there, analyzing the cricketing skills of different teams. And it's always a delight to hear him speak, especially when it comes to sports, because whenever you have passion for something, it is coming from a very deep and personal tone, and you can easily identify that. So this is how Shahzad is about the sporting events or the sports.
And he gets very analytical with the analysts who are present there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now moving on and developing our conversation forward. So we would like to introduce our guest who is going to talk about the drug addiction, and because this is I would say another pandemic that is affecting the global society,
right? Word
right?
That you've used,
Exactly.
Yes.
And there are lots of factors, there are peer pressures going on, there are stresses going on. Sometimes it is deemed as very cool and trendy thing to do. And it gives us a very artificial escape from all of the problems, or an artificial dopamine, I would say, right?
Yes, and a short term, I would say.
Yes,
it's not even long term. I mean, you become dependent on it, then ultimately you're an addict. Well, but to get more details, I would like to introduce our guest, like you already did. Mr. Talal Zubair Saab is here with us. So welcome to PTV World and World This Morning, and a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me over.
And Mr. Talal Zubair also happens to be the director of the Willing Ways Pakistan, and this is the one of the biggest rehabilitation center in Asia, and he has been dealing with this pandemic for quite some time. And sir, so we would like to throw you this question, since you've been dealing with people, and obviously it's a taboo subject, and I would say because we both come from the university background, and we have seen that how endemic it was during our university times. Students after students were getting addicted to this menace in the first place, right? So what are some of the factors which forces a person to go for the drug addiction, and what is the role of the willpower in combating this disease?
Right. The primary factor behind choosing to take drug is either being anxious or having depression. So these are the two basic factors. If someone feels very anxious, he would like to try something new, and in this process of experimenting, he would get introduced to a drug that would temporarily fix his anxiety, but would definitely have certain negative consequences associated to it. So likewise, people who are depressed, they don't want to do anything, they don't like to do anything, they would also like to use drug, and eventually would get addicted to those substances. And yes, it is there in the environment, it is there in the society, the peer pressure, the people, the choice of friends you make. If they are into smoking cigarettes or choosing to take drugs, you will eventually hook up into drugs with them. Then if there are families where alcohol or drug abuse is very common, these kids would definitely get hooked onto drugs.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
And also, sir, these days, the era that we live in, people
Yes.
are into a gender identity crisis. They think it's more masculine to perhaps smoke. And when it comes to smoke now, smoking a normal cigarette is far behind. People are now moving on to other drugs,
Vapes and yeah.
be it the recreational drugs. And there are some of the people who have made themselves as patients by consuming benzodiazepines, anxiolytics, antidepressants. Would you comment on those?
And also, before you comment on that, because you highlighted a very important point, which is about smoking. And the way you analyze the campaign of how smoking was popularized, it was associated with the women empowerment just to sell their products. And this is a very false sort of, I would say, an equivalency that has been attached to the smoking. So if you're smoking, you're very cool, you're very empowered, but this is now how it should be, right? Because it damages your lungs and it is the pathway to other sort of drug addiction in the first place.
Yeah.
That is
Yes.
very right, that smoking itself is a pathway towards other hardcore drugs.
That's true.
And quitting smoking is as difficult as quitting heroin or other narcotics, because it has lot of psychological and physiological impacts where you are trying to quit it. Mostly people who even try to quit cigarettes, they end up into using cigarettes again. The real problem is that when it comes to synthetic drugs or the prescription drugs that the doctors give us for resolving any problem of ours, like resolving insomnia, or like especially these drugs are prescribed to the women who are into family way and they go through certain ups and downs. Their sleep gets disturbed or they get very anxious or depressed. So they are prescribed with certain benzodiazepines like Xanax, Lexotinil, Alp, etc. And then they eventually get hooked up to that drug, because out of every 110 people who are introduced to any substance, whether it's legal or illegal, 20% of them have a chance to get hooked to them because of their genetic repositioning or any other factor that they have. There's always a chance, because when you take any substance, it gives you a dopamine kick as well. It increases the level of the dopamine inside your body, and your reward centers then crave for more dopamine, and if they start craving for more, you would, like, for instance, if a benzodiazepine is prescribed to someone, it is not usually prescribed for more than 2 weeks. But if someone has started using beyond 2 weeks, it means that it is an illegal use of that substance, and one is going to develop certain level of tolerance. Its intake would increase, or you would develop insomnia. You won't be able to sleep without drugs. So it is a very common household drug abuse that is usually not even pointed out.
So also there are certain painkillers which are quite addictive in nature, and people start using it initially for pains and then they get hooked onto it. Do they have a similar effect on the body as the benzodiazepines or the other recreational drugs?
Benzodiazepines basically come under the category of CNS depressant. They are central nervous system depressants. So like drugs that are painkillers, they act as narcotics inside our body, right? So narcotic means that you are taking any opioid or any heroin or morphine in any form, right? So if these drugs are usually prescribed for like headaches from the doctors who are doing pain management, or even people are given injections after surgeries, and because of their genetic repositioning, they start abusing the drug, these injectable drugs themselves. And that is also a very, very common phenomena, because when you prescribe someone any benzodiazepine or any painkiller, there should be a dopamine blocker prescribed along with it, because if you prescribe any dopamine blocker along with it, drug addiction is never going to happen, because it is never going to elevate the levels of dopamine to a level where you will get pleasure after relieving the pain.
Right. Sir, I would like to pick up a word that you use, which is about anxiety and depression, and develop further the conversation. So nowadays, like Fahim was also talking about, that we faces so many stresses around, and I think there's so many complexities which have nowadays developed because of the digital age, because of the social media and whatnot, that obviously people do become, get the anxiety, and there's this crisis of mental illnesses around the world, right? So I mean, and that's a very quick fix, I would say, or a very artificial escape, going to the drugs to escape your anxiety or depression. So what sort of alternative, if someone is going through anxiety or depression, alternative would you recommend? And do you feel that there's just a lack of, or I would say spiritually we are moving away from our realness, or reverting back to our inner, I would say, strengths, and that is why we are so much addicted in the materialistic world that we do get these sort of drug addiction. So what is your analysis when you look at the people who are getting drug addicts in the first place?
I think today's world is the most beautiful world that anyone could have imagined. The facilities, the luxuries, the quality of life, the knowledge, education, the exposure is the best that I have experienced in my throughout life. Today is the best time. The problem is that we lack human skills for today, and the human skills are also the executive skills, the executive motor functioning skills that should be developed between the age of 6 months up to age 11. And if someone gets developed those 1 dozen executive skills, he would never get affected by the stresses and the difficulties of this world, and would develop the right kind of core strength within that is required to deal with the upcoming problem, rather than making a loser's choice, I must say, that is using any substance or any wrong way of dealing with your problem. So there is always a right way and a wrong way. So if someone develops those human skills, would never get affected by drugs or any other stresses in the society, and that actually gives us the right kind of strength. And these skills are very common if someone wants to assess them.
And do you want to elaborate what sort of skills you are actually talking about when you speak human skills?
Yes, they are, like, I can simply name them. They are your planning and prioritizing, your flexibility, your time management, your task initiation, your sustained attention, your goal-directed persistence, your stress tolerance, your emotional control, your metacognition, etc. So these are the skills that makes us an executive, that makes us mature enough to deal with this society for today. And if we lack those skills, all those pressures would affect us, and eventually the water is going to flow out.
So before I move on to the rehab and what is done in rehabs, what to do about the peer pressure, because that is always going to be there for children, right? From a young age to the university level, it's always going to be there. You know, you have such a huge pressure of assignments, quizzes, then ultimately projects, then exams. It's become more practical now. People have more pressure now. And someone from the group is going to say, okay, why not just try this? It would relieve your pressure. It would make you calm down and do your work very easily without getting anxious at all or depressed at all about your grades or anything at all. So how to manage that? Because someone or the other is always going to talk about it.
And also the social media, the sort of artificial identity that is instilling in us, right? All of these filters and all of these beauty standards and all of this artificialness, a race to make yourself more perfect on a very social media image that we project, right? So how does this factor into drug addiction?
I would like to answer both questions. First, starting from that it's usually very common in the medical students, the MBBS students, that
they have the most pressure,
have the more focus in their studies, and to develop an ability to study more, they would get onto Ritalin. That is a medicine not as effective as cocaine, but its effects are also akin to what cocaine's effects are. It's going to stimulate you, it won't let you sleep, and then that is the start journey of their education, where they use take the help of any substance, any drug, to enhance their skills temporarily, just like the sportsmen take steroids to enhance their stamina and develop the certain skills. But it can give you a very temporary relief, just like you give oxytocin injections to a buffalo to in order to attain certain more amount of milk, but then
yes.
it eventually affects the health of that buffalo.
Yes.
So likewise, if you try to take any artificial substance to increase your stamina or to develop a focus or your ability for a very, very temporary time, it would eventually affect your health. And that is what drug abuse does, that it affects you and it is eventually potentially fatal illness that happens. And it also, if you see a SPECT scan of a brain, that is not unfortunately there in Pakistan right now, but if you see that or any picture of the SPECT scan, you will see that the pores inside the brain are akin to what the pores of moon are. You will see that there is physically damage to the brain that is not at all visible to our generation at all.
Like
So
I was studying in a book that I read, Dopamine Nation was the name of the book, and there was this term that these are the drugs that fry your dopamine receptors in the body.
that is right.
And that's and it's sort of an irreversible damage, and if not irreversible, it takes a very long time to perhaps get back into the original shape. So talking about, because you said Willing Ways Pakistan is the biggest and the oldest group of rehabs in Asia. When a person, a drug addict, comes to a rehab center, first of all, how is he treated? And then we're talking about a long-term treatment here. We're not talking about just a couple of months treatment. We're talking about we have to make sure that a person does not get back to the drugs. So how is that done?
Right. The addiction treatment itself can be done with 3 methodologies. One is that 4% of the people, they can get rid of drugs with their own willpower. The second thing is that the people who need to develop certain amount of skills, they are very much motivated and they want to develop certain amount of skills. They need to develop agency, that is a value added willpower, and with help of that skill set they can get rid of it. So anyone who comes to Willing Ways, in the start we start with an outdoor counseling with them. We start educating them over the subject, the purpose, and we try to change their environment and try to develop more motivation and the skill set with them. So as the consequence of those skill set, either they would be able to quit the drugs on their own, or they would ask for an indoor rehabilitation for some time. That is usually a short term period for about 3 months time. And after that they will be on an outpatient program that goes there for another 265 days. So it is usually a 1-year program that is offered to help them and send them into recovery process.
Right. And one last question before we wrap up this segment, sir. So how much do you think it is important, especially for the drug addicts, to give them a safe emotional space where they can actually spill out their emotions? Because nowadays emotions are a very, I would say, a human activity, right? Everyone experiences the emotions, but they are demonized a lot, right? So you're feeling sentimental, or you're feeling too much emotional, or don't be melodramatic, etc., etc. And when you curb this tendency, do you think that it can make you fall into the spiral of drug addiction in the first place? Or for the students who are gravitating towards this menace in the first place, do you think it's important for their parents to give them a good emotional safe space where they can express themselves very safely in their houses before going on?
I think that is a very important point, because when we are growing up as a child,
Yes,
we are usually not very good at expressing our feelings.
That's
and
true.
we have to be feeded with the right feeling words from our family, from our teachers. Peers don't give us, they would like to bully us more than giving us the right emotions,
That's
right?
true.
So if we are able to express our emotions freely, if we learn to do that at a pre-teen phase, it would be very easy for us to say no to drugs and other bad choices that we people take. And again, earlier you were asking about the Facebook and the other social media platform pressures that one gets because of that artificial identity that it creates. So if you understand that it is not the outer world or your appearance that would really going to matter in your life, but what is inside your head, how good are your thought processes, how positive you are, how enthusiastic you are, how well you are equipped with the problem solving skills would make a difference in your life. So I think that is a real thing, and if kids are fed with the right kind of emotional feeling words, they can express themselves much better, and their most of their problems would never get triggered, like anxiety and depression.
That's very true.
I think it depends a lot on the parents and the teachers in the formative years to help the children when they get into the teenage years, because that's when the main problem starts.
Right.
Well, anyway, sir, thank you very much,
you so
Talal
much.
Zubair Saab. It was wonderful and a total pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much
Same
for
here.
being
Thank
here
you very
with
much
us
for
and
inviting
giving us your time.
Right, and we would like to wrap up this segment and go on a short break, but please don't go anywhere, because after the break we have a very interesting conversation lined up, so don't go anywhere. Good morning. Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we alluded to the fact that there's a very interesting discussion lined up, and it is interesting because this is something new for me. So what does the knowledge-based economy means? So according to the economy, how the goods and services that are produced based on the knowledge-intensive activities, Fahim.
Yes.
And we've seen that how the paradigm of the security is changing. It's constantly evolving in the 21st century, in the digital age, because traditionally security or prosperity means amassing in a traditional form or investing a lot on your defense activities. But now it has evolved, and it means the concept of the human security, and obviously Pakistani state is also venturing towards this evolution of the human security paradigm, and human security encapsulates that how rich we are in the ideas and how much do we invest on our human capital. And Pakistan does not have a shortage of young people, because 60% of the population of Pakistan does consist of the young population, which is a demographic gift. But how can
I think it's about time that this had to be done, considering the youth bulge that we have in Pakistan. And I think we must introduce our guest. Also, we have with us in our second segment Professor Dr. Mohammad Naveed Saab. He is a former Dean Bahria University and a global financial expert. Naveed Saab, welcome to PTV World and good morning.
Good morning. My sheer appreciations to you and the PTV world for engaging the different discourse of the life. We are not very just focused towards the life and living. We are speaking high. What the role of the media that is more towards the economic outlook of the countries as well. Sheer appreciations to you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure is all ours. So, talking about knowledge economy, usually when we read about knowledge economy, it's usually said that the developed part of the world follows knowledge economy and has those kinds of programs that they follow in their countries. Now, definitely in a country like Pakistan, the paradigm shift is going to be slow, definitely, because when we talk about the youth bulge, we don't talk about all of the youth of the country. We talk about a certain percentage. But even if the certain percentage is doing well, that's also going to do wonders for the country. So, in an underdeveloped or a developing nation like Pakistan, how would you implement knowledge economy in your own ways?
Yeah, I think the discussion that we have engaged, it's a landscape of the knowledge.
Yeah.
How the landscape of the knowledge that is being adding a value towards the economic, social and financial development. When I see how the universities, HEIs, they are contributing towards the capitalization of the knowledge. For me, the knowledge, it needs to be demonstrated. You have to bring the demonstration of the knowledge. Your research should be acclimatized. Your knowledge, it needs to address the social, economic, financial issues of the society. I just want to bring the knowledge economy chapter that is more towards the lens, what's happening with the country right now. I need to find out the realization is there. It is the economic turmoil. We have largely accepted that Pakistan is going through a very deep economic crisis, where I bring the application of the knowledge economy, how my universities, how the knowledge centers, that we are going to provide our voice on the economic uplift, how we have to see what the fiscal sustainability, so how the SDGs, sustainable development goals, all these aspects, they are associated with the knowledge economy. Knowledge is not something I believe I the custodian as the university custodian, I have to bring my responsibility. Knowledge is something it need to be transformed. Now, if I just want to shift the focus of the discussion that is more towards the what the economic turnaround that we have to bring through the knowledge economy. So I need to find out the three realizations are there. My first realization, this is what I said. Now it's a larger acceptance that Pakistan is going through this economic crisis.
Yeah.
The second thought. Now I need to find out, we have standby agreements with the IMF. IMF is expecting from my country that you have to bring a robustness of the implementation of the IMF program. Then I see what should be the outlook of the country. Now the three strands, a country that is going through with a deep economic crisis. The second thought, we are working in the mainstream of the arrangements with the world financial institutions, and now we need to see what the prediction of the outlook of the economy. Now I have the stats a day before. World Bank, IMF, Asian Development Bank, they are speaking about it could be the two orientations for the coming 2 years for the financial outlook of the Pakistan. 1.7, this is the growth set that we have set for Pakistan for the next year, and 2.4% economic growth that we set for the year after, 2025.
Yeah.
Now, this is the positive outlook if we have the robustness of the implementation of the IMF plan. But on the other way around, if we are not going to have the reforms, if we are not going to engage the restructuring, so then they are giving a strong outlook, it's a negative outlook of the country. So here it comes the role of the knowledge economy. Here we need to find out, do we have the capacity towards the political side? My political, the parties, they have only one narrative. It's a political narrative. I want to listen from them.
Yeah.
Where is your economic narrative? What is the narrative of the universities? What is the narrative of your knowledge economy? So I need to find out, we are basically lacking a narrative. So since we need to develop a custodian-based economy, when I say the custodian-based economy, it's a deficit is there. The public is not going to have a sentiment of the confidence with the policies, with the outlook of your society. So here we need to engage the platform that the universities, they are basically
But that's a very important point, and thank you for highlighting that, because I would like to further build up the conversation that is linked around the knowledge-based economy and the knowledge which is very Eurocentric in nature. It is mostly coming from the West or the America in the first place, and there's this drive generally across the European capitals or the America, especially in the academia, that they need to have an alternative-based knowledge productions, right, from the third world countries, from the global south in the first place. So where does Pakistan figure out into that entire equation of the non-Eurocentric knowledge economy, right? Because obviously that does bring into the equation that we need to have a more robust research and development. But we see that our universities are not doing that well. So what is wrong? Are we just churning out students who are just want to go and have a good jobs in the market, or where does that entire equation lead us to?
The entire equation that is coming towards a very design thinking. You're speaking about the Euro 2020, I would say. The Euro 2020, they started in 2015. It's a 5 years plan. They have a further knowledge economy.
Right.
They highlighted 4 areas, that how we are open up to the science, how we are open up to the scientific research, how my research is capitalizing towards the impact. It's a 4 years goal. This is the biggest investment by the European Union in R&I, just 2 aspects of their knowledge economy. And this is they are going by design. I think where we are lacking, we are not coming up with a design thinking. We have to identify what the potential skills, competencies and knowledge areas, they are more towards the capacity building of your economy, your fiscal sustainability, and we have to bring, end of the day, the most important thing, are we as a custodian of the economy, we have that capacity. So if we are coming up with this design thinking, I think we have to place a 5 years, 10 years plan that is directly been associated, that is directly been aligned with your economic spectrum of the society. We are working in silos. I'm not shy, I have to accept my orientation is not driving towards the gray areas of the society.
Right.
Since I'm not going by design. Potential is there. In the very starting, you said the youth bulge. My youth bulge, it could be my strength. If I need to give the name of my population, it's a productive population. It's only how we are going to build their capacity. So we are not coming towards the drive of a knowledge economy, that is with the design thinking.
What are your suggestions for building that capacity? Because I think one of the problems that Pakistan now is facing is the brain drain, right? Pakistan does not have a deficiency of young brains which are teeming with the great innovative ideas, and we have seen that how especially in the Western capitals, they are doing exceptionally well because they are given a more conducive environment, a platform where they can exercise their mental
and
faculty.
to add on to that,
Sure.
because when we try to implement knowledge-based economy in a country like Pakistan or any third world country for that matter,
Right.
we would have problems like job creation. There would be a difficulty
True.
there. We would have problems in bigger opportunities for children or the students who are being churned out from the universities.
Right, right.
Or potentially a lower rate of employment. So how do we?
Right. So how
Yeah.
do we go forward and I mean tackle this issue of the brain drain in the first place, and your suggestions that how can we turn that tide in the first place of the
Yeah.
brain drain?
I think we have to revamp. This revamping that is coming not with the desperation. I'm not born for Pakistan. I'm born for the world. This is how the economies they're moving on. So we need to find out the equation from the other lens as well. The other side is I need to find out if my youngsters they find some opportunities. They have the representation of the country internationally. They could be coming with a scientific eye. They could be coming with the eye as the financial analyst, and how they can bring a contribution. They can bring end of the day contribution that could be in the form of the remittance as well. So I think we are not going to disengage our youth. This is one of the distraction I would say. We have to give a confidence. Yes, we are more unleashed towards the global chapter. If you find the potential is there, go for it. Your thought is it's my pain line. When we say this is a brain drain, I would say it's on the other side as well. You have to live locally and you have to act globally. This is how the world that has been evolved.
Right.
I need to find out a very specific about India, what they have done over the period of time.
Right.
Very refined population of the India. Now they are giving a representation as a preface of the world-renowned financial institutions, the IT institutions. So what they have done, they have changed the context. So desperation is there. So this is what in the beginning I said, it's a trust deficit that we have with the public. Now we have to engage economic leaks. Now I'm moving towards what is the turnaround where we have to bring the strong collaboration.
Right.
That is the economic leaks. The World Cup you're speaking high, our eyes are coming towards what's happening with the sports league.
Yes.
Economies, they are coming with a sense of the cities model. If I said, what are the top 20 cities of my country? I need to develop 10 years city plan. Lahore 2020, starting from the decade, we want to see after 10 years, what should be the priorities, the packing order of Lahore, Karachi, Faisalabad. If we are going to give this sense to the people, then you bring all the indicators. You are speaking about your health quality, your environmental quality index. You speak about their civicness. You speak high about research and investments, how hygienic we are. Each and every aspect, if we are coming with this understanding, the cities they would compete in terms of the tax broadening as well, if I need to find out.
Yeah.
So then,
and also, sir, if we talk about a country like Japan for that matter, right? Japan, the way it used knowledge economy, the way it created and channelized the energies of all of its youngsters, and the way it moved forward and has now started competing with the rest of the world, the global north, as you always call it, Hajra.
Yes.
So how can we take the example and perhaps try and implement that in Pakistan?
they realize the significance of the learning perspective. What we are lacking, though it's a teacher's day as well, we always
Right.
speak high, the orientation, lot of regards, the teachers are the light of the lights. But we are forgetting the learning perspective we have. What are the Japanese they are doing? The Japanese, they have the navigation of their students. Universities, they're coming with the navigation. I want to see how many of you are ready for the future bankers of Pakistan. How many future bankers you need? How much economists you need? How much financial analysts you need? I think this is how you have to bring a navigation to your education system. My education system is not coming with a navigation. So Japanese, they have the idea that how we have to use this potential towards the capitalization. End of the day, what it matters, your economic, social, financial development index, that is been capitalized through the potential. You have to give the skill sets, you have to give the competencies, and you have to give them a transferable knowledge. So this is how, once again, we have to come up with the turnaround situation where we have to bring a design model. We are not going by design, we are going by wave. Waves, they are not visualized, I would say. We have to give a visualization. Japanese, they are very smart. What they have done, even now they are taxing more. They discourage the savings habits of the people. they discourage the saving habits. The people, you cannot bring the savings beyond this level, otherwise you are going to be more taxed. Because what we are not need a savings, we have to bring the equity, it need to be invested, we have to create more economic activity.
Right, right. And thank you so much for very brilliantly pointing it out, and it was a very wonderful cross-pollination of ideas. And one thing which Professor Saab mentioned here, it was about the globalization and the aspect of it which he alluded to. And obviously, Pakistan can learn a lot from the experiences of the China, because
China as well, true.
Exactly,
true.
because it's not just about contribution of in the monetary terms, especially when the people, the brain drain, who are going abroad, the expat Pakistanis, but they can also contribute in the non-monetary terms to their own country in terms of the IT transfer, technologies, capacity building, whatnot. And Pakistani diaspora is very influential in the Western countries, and it is one of the biggest diasporas there, right? So we can always take the help of them, because you will meet lots of expat Pakistanis, and they're brimming with the emotions of how they can help their country back home.
And it's something really interesting as well, the way you spoke about design thinking and planning and long-term planning. We have to think strategically now, because we live in a world where we need to compete, where we need to survive, basically, because we are living in a very strong neighborhood where we need to compete and survive. So yes, definitely we need to strategize our planning, and that's how we will survive in the future as well. And we need to channelize the energies, and not just the energies of people living inside Pakistan, but also outside Pakistan.
And with that, we will say thank you so much for coming here. And with that, we will wrap up our segment and say Allah Hafiz. So until next time, it's a goodbye and good morning.